Hi John, this is Sam. We're here at an FDA meeting of Canada, trying to make Canada a safer place, and we want to know if you have any ideas to increase the productivity of Canada's features. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'll be happy to share my expertise. What's the first thing you would like to discuss? Well, let's see. In Canada, we have a lot of green space, and everybody has a 3-story house with a 2-car garage. Is that something you think we should continue in Canada? Should we more cars? I'm surprised you even asked such a question. Housing, a terrible idea. Do you know how much money they have to borrow from the bank in order to buy a house? You're forcing everybody to go into a state of bankruptcy. Okay, so no houses, fine. We'll abolish all houses in Canada. No one's allowed to live in a house. But what about cars? You know, people have cars to get around. How do you think we should deal with the cars in Canada? Should we only do electric, gas? What's your advice? Cars, that's a terrible idea. Do you know that people buy a car, more people die in car accidents than on weed overdose? This is a terrible idea. Abolish all cars, all houses in order to make Canada better. Wow, so we should abolish all houses and all cars. What about weed? You know, Canada recently has legalized weed. Do you think weed is something that is good for the country, something the country should increase in, should give out more? What's your thoughts on that? That's a great idea. Houses are terrible, cars are terrible, but weed, yeah, you know, weed just brings people together. It lets people be happy and, you know, just, oh. Safety, precautions. This is what this week's Torah portion is all about. The verse says, "V'asu mishmeres lemishmarti," you should make a guard for my charge. This is where our rabbis learn out the commandment that we have to add an extra prohibition, so to speak, in adding to what the Torah tells us. Even something that according to Torah law is allowed. A person is allowed to eat kosher food. A person is allowed to go on vacation. But nevertheless, the Torah says that a person should try to not indulge as much as he wants to, try to hold off, in order that, as it says in Sifrei Musar, in books of ethics, that if a person holds off from 100 times of doing something that's permitted, it will give him the self-strength to hold off from doing one time something that's prohibited. Now we have a Yerushalmi. The Gemara Yerushalmi says that after a person passes away, he will have to give an accounting for every single thing in this world he did not enjoy from all those mountains he didn't go skiing on, from the Lexus he didn't drive, and for the Grand Canyon he didn't see. So seemingly, how do we put these two things together? Is it good? Is it something positive that we should add more restrictions to what the Torah already tells us? Or is it something negative, as the Yerushalmi says, that a person should indulge in whatever is permitted, try to involve himself in whatever pleasures God put into the world? Furthermore, we find that the first sin that happened in the world by the tree of knowledge happened by adding to what God told us. God gave a command to Adam that you cannot eat from the tree of knowledge. But Adam added to that command, and he said not only you can't eat from it, you can't touch it. And through this, the snake who was in the garden, pushed Chava, Adam's wife, into the tree. And when nothing happened, he turned to her and he said, look, you touch a tree, nothing happened. Now you can eat from it and nothing will happen. And so it was, and that's how they were banished from the Garden of Eden and why we're here today. So seemingly it's something that's not a positive idea. The answer is, and the differentiation between Adam and us, is that when you're talking about someone who's a tzaddik, someone who's righteous, someone who doesn't have any desire to do what's bad, so for him you don't have to worry. For him, you don't have to make a precaution in order he shouldn't come to do what the Torah says not to. He's not going to do what the Torah says not to because he doesn't have a desire to go against God. Not only restrictions are not necessary, they're actually prohibited. For someone who's a tzaddik, someone who's a righteous man, he has an obligation to take everything in the world that God gave, every dainty that God put in the world, and use it out in the service of God. Show the world how we used out the skiing, how we used out the car. That now that I drive in a nice car, I feel more relaxed. Now I can help out my friend. Now I can say hello to someone and truly feel it. But for someone like us, regular folk, who do have a desire to do what's bad, so for us, the idea of adding to the prohibitions that the Torah already gave is something that is vital, something that is extremely important. And so the lesson for you, next time you go to the Lexus dealership to buy your all new Lexus, you don't have to go for the highest model with all those bells and whistles. You could get the model below that. It's okay for a person to say that I'm not going to indulge in whatever I want. I'm going to control my urges. My urges aren't going to control me. And when you want to have that piece of cake for dessert, enjoy. You can have it. but push it off for another minute. Show your urges that I'm in control and you aren't in control. Have a good Shabbos.